What's going on, everyone? So it is official. JJ Redick is officially the head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, this should come to no surprise for anybody. JJ Redick's been the lead candidate, and reports have basically, out of all the chaos and all the noise, the one consistency pretty much the entire time has been that JJ Redick is going to be the head coach of the Lakers. He's the guy that I was preaching and saying is going to end up being the head coach. Even when the Dan Hurley news came out, I said, Dan Hurley, he's not going to take the job. It doesn't make any sense for Dan Hurley. JJ Redick's going to be the head coach, right? Even through all the noise, JJ Redick was always going to be the head coach, in my opinion. I think the Lakers, with the Dan Hurley thing, I think they just kind of use that as a smokescreen to kind of take pressure off JJ Redick. I think they, I'm not saying that they wouldn't have gotten the guy if he was willing to take the money, but I think both sides just kind of used each other for various reasons, right? I think Dan Hurley used the Lakers for leverage. I know he said that he didn't, but everything about it said that he did. And even him explaining the situation sounded like it was all leverage. And he just at the end was like, oh, but it wasn't about leverage, right? And I think the Lakers used him to kind of distract and take away from the noise of JJ Redick, but also give them a bit of a get-out-of-jail-free card, right? Because people are going to be disappointed. I mean, I know people already are disappointed about JJ Redick being the head coach of the Lakers because he doesn't have the head coaching experience. And the Lakers now kind of get to go, oh, well, we tried. We wanted Dan Hurley, right? But he didn't want to come. So, Monty Williams, right? He wanted to take some time off. Like, who are we supposed to get? Oh, JJ Redick, right? So I believe that it was always was JJ Redick. I think everything else was just noise. But now he's the head coach, right? So we are now in a situation where we're going to find out, is he the guy or not? Now, whoever the coach would have been, right, I think that it's not going to be a guy. Even Dan Hurley is very likely not leading the team to the NBA Finals as currently constructed, right? So even with JJ Redick, I think JJ Redick can be a very good coach. So many people are willing to just basically write him off immediately. So many people are basically looking at JJ Redick and going like, oh, he's trash. And the guy hasn't even coached. Like, how do you know, right? I'm not saying he's going to be great. I think he'll do a good job. I do. I think that he's going to work it out. Not really worried about the on-court stuff. Worried about everything else that goes on with being a head coach. Everything behind the scenes, dealing with egos and players and rotations and, preparation and, dealing with watching film and dealing with agents and the organization. Like, the list goes on and on for things that head coaches just have to deal with that's beyond the game of basketball. I think that JJ Redick, I think that he's going to have the respect of LeBron James. I know that there were talks about Anthony Davis and, Anthony Davis doesn't want JJ and all that stuff and he hates JJ or whatever. I don't believe the Lakers would have hired JJ Redick unless Anthony Davis gave the okay. If Anthony Davis was really that vocal, again, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but you're going off of a rumor that came out that said that he didn't want JJ Redick, but that same rumor was talking about him wanting James Borrego because it's his guy. Yes, he had James Borrego for like a month. Like they only saw each other in passing. Like, how good of a relationship could they have built in New Orleans? It was they had like a month together. It might not even that long. I mean, it probably was a little longer, but it wasn't like they had years of just like growth together. And the reports, again, just didn't add up, right? JJ Redick, the idea of bringing in JJ is for now and the future. The Lakers are hoping that JJ Redick is their head coach for the next 10 years. LeBron James is only going to be here for probably 2 or 3 years. So guess who has to deal with JJ Redick longer than anybody? Anthony Davis. You don't think that the Lakers talked to Anthony Davis about that? I believe that they did. I believe that he'll have the respect of LeBron. He'll have the respect of Anthony Davis. LeBron buying in, if he buys in, which I do believe he will, because it's his buddy, right? Him coming in, I think will immediately get everyone else to buy in. But again, we need a roster that's comparable. Because again, I don't care who the head coach was. The roster we currently have, the way it's constructed, I don't believe is a true contender, right? Can they win a championship if the dominoes kind of fall their way? Sure, right? Outside of Denver, we all kind of came to the conclusion, like everybody, even non-Laker fans were like, yeah, they played anybody but Denver, they had a shot. Still think the Lakers have a shot. But I don't think that you're looking at this Lakers roster currently constructed going, that's one of the top 3 rosters in the league or top 5 rosters in the league. It's just, if you can get there, Anthony Davis, LeBron James, guys show up, you could potentially be in business, right? So, but if the Lakers do get some proper upgrades and or maybe get that complimentary third piece or whatever, now I think that that'll put us in position to have some success. But JJ Redick from the coaching standpoint, because that's what really matters, right? First off, I see a lot of people that are like, oh, but he's a podcaster, he's that. So is LeBron. So are several other NBA players. So are the NBA players that have a podcast not good basketball players because they have a podcast? So is LeBron trash because he has a podcast? What is having a pod? The excuses that I hear from people why JJ Redick won't be a good head coach have nothing to do with him actually being a head coach, right? Like even the whole Anthony Davis thing, I don't agree with him, right? I don't agree that Anthony Davis isn't a top 10 defensive guy. I'm sure that rubbed Anthony Davis the wrong way a little bit. But again, what does that have to do with him coaching? I understand he has to coach Anthony Davis, but would you rather have a yes man coach that's like, oh, Anthony Davis and LeBron James are the best players ever? Or do you want a coach that's like, I didn't believe that you were the best defensive guy. Show me this year. Do you want a guy to challenge the players? Or do you want a guy that's just like, oh, it's okay. Don't Anthony Davis, it's fine. No. Or do you want a guy that's going to push AD? I would rather have a guy that's pushing AD. All the reasons I hear a large majority of people explain why JJ is not going to work as a head coach have nothing to do with basketball. He's an analyst or he's a pod. What does that have to do with him being a head coach? Steve Kerr was a failed GM and an analyst and is looked at as one of, if not the best coaches in the league right now, right? Eric Spoelstra was a guy in the film room putting tape together for people and is one of, if not the best coaches in the league right now. Pat Riley was in the booth commentating on games and is revered as one of the greatest coaches ever, right? Like, again, I don't know what JJ Redick's going to do. But we have seen on his podcast, might I add, his ability to break things down, to break down film, to break down play calling and sets, but also simplify it in a very easy to digest way. And I mean, there's some coaches now that are in the NBA that can't do that to the level that JJ Redick can do it. Again, I think JJ Redick will do well. I also think him not being a head coach or an assistant or whatever is actually a benefit, right? Now, obviously, it can be a bad thing, but the reason I think it can be a benefit is because he's not set in his ways, right? You look at a lot of these assistants turn head coaches, they only know what they know. They don't know how to get away from things that aren't working. They don't know how to adjust to a different scheme or, set or whatever, right? Because they don't know how, right? Darvin Ham, what was one of his biggest problems? He didn't know how to get away from what was working or what wasn't working, right? Because he only knew what he knew. He only knew how to run Budenholzer's system. Anytime he had to kind of branch out and do other things, guess what? He didn't know how to do it. As long as he was in his box, he looked great. There were times where Darvin Ham, as terrible as he was, there were times that Darvin Ham looked competent and looked like a very good coach. In the Memphis Grizzlies series, in the series in the Warriors against Steve Kerr, Darvin Ham looked brilliant. Everyone's like, oh, wow, maybe this guy really is a good head coach. He just outcoached Steve Kerr. And then he ran into Denver, and he had to get out of his box because the box worked in the first 2 rounds, but then the box didn't work in the 3rd round, and we got swept because he didn't know what to do. And then you continue to see that highlighted throughout his time. I don't think that that's going to be a problem with JJ Redick. Why? Because he's not set in his ways. He's a guy that has played and learned multiple different sets, that understands and breaks down multiple different sets. He's a guy that understands multiple offenses. So he's going to be able to make those adjustments. He's going to be able to, hey, this isn't working. And because he's not set in his ways of like, this is proven, right? Like, why can't Darvin Ham? Because it's Mike Budenholzer won an NBA championship with this system. Okay, well, the Bucks aren't the Lakers, right? And what you're doing is not working. So can you change it? Well, okay, well, then you can't. Where JJ, again, he's not tied to any specific way of thinking or way of coaching. So if something isn't working, he's going to be more open to, hey, let's scrap that and go over here. Let's stop doing this because this isn't working. So let's go over here, right? And that doesn't mean necessarily one game. You know, if you're 20-5, like you're not changing. I'm talking about like, hey, you know, like Darvin Ham, there were stretches this season where what he was doing wasn't working and he didn't change it. He just kept doing it the same, right? And I don't think that that's what JJ Redick will do. I think JJ Redick is going to be a good head coach. I think that he has all the tools, everything that you want from a head coach. If you have a checklist of all the things you want from a head coach, I think JJ Redick checks off basically everything except for the behind-the-scenes stuff, because that comes with being a head coach, right? And so, to me, at the end of the day, it boils down to the staff, right? What does the coaching staff look like? If the Lakers are able to put together a competent coaching staff, I think that he will thrive, and I think he'll be great. But if you have this like lackluster coaching staff around him, then I think he will have his struggles. I mean, again, he's a first-year head coach. There's probably going to be some struggles and some learning curves regardless. But I think overall, I think we'll look back and go, wow, he did a really good job this season, right? Obviously, the standard and the expectation for the Lakers are championship or bust. But I think if he can get us, you know, to the conference finals or, you know, something, and he's clearly competent, it's like, oh, it's not just like, just strictly because we're a good matchup against them. It's like, oh no, like we actually beat Denver this year, right? Or whatever, or we beat Minnesota or whatever. It's like, oh, and he clearly outcoached, or he was clearly on par, right? With Mike Malone or whatever, right? Then I think that to me would be a very successful season because it shows like, okay, he's not outclassed. He is on his own, right? He can handle business and do what's necessary. But I think he'll do good. It's just, obviously, we won't know until we get there. But I'm willing to wait and see. I'm willing to give him a chance. Because guess what? Whether you like it or not, he's the head coach. So instead of rooting for his downfall, why don't we encourage him and uplift him and try to look at this on the positive side, right? Like, I don't want him to fail, because if he fails, then the Lakers fail. I would love to see him win a championship in his first year. Why? Because he's the head coach of the Lakers. That means the Lakers win the championship, right? Like, so I would love for him, and I want him, and we need him to have success. I don't want to have to keep going through these coaching changes every 2 or 3 years. I want to get it right, and I'm hoping JJ Redick is right. I believe he will. And again, maybe maybe my belief will be proven, a little, whatever, crazy. What lack of a better word, but I think he'll be fine, and we'll know. We'll know him pretty quickly. We're gonna know in a year or two if he's good or not. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. I pass a question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you agree with me? Do you think JJ will be fine? He's gonna do good. Are you happy about the signing? Are you not happy about the signing? How do you feel? Whatever your thoughts are, love to hear it. Let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So we enjoy these types of videos. Truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.